But look what I've got.
You've even got the hat. Good morning, everybody, and welcome here to another fantastic interview with the ladies from Agent Rainmaker. How are you? Obviously,
We're
the pink.
I'm jealous I haven't got a hat.
I know. Sally's at home, so I have got one here for you, Sally, but I don't think I pull it off quite as well as you, Simon. I'd look up. It's not really me, is
You're
it?
holding it all to yourself, aren't you, Kate? That's you know how valuable this kerfuffle merch is, and you're not wrong. I think we're probably better known for the merch than anything else, which says more about my business than me. Ladies, first of all, did you have a nice Christmas? I think we can still say Happy New Year without it sounding ridiculous.
Yes, lovely. Thank you. Very nice and quiet. That's always good.
Excellent, good. Well, quiet is something you always link to me as well, so that's good to hear. Well, I've got to be honest. I'm a little bit nervous, a little bit reticent about having you guys on board. Normally, when I get guests on board, the loudness, the narcissism of Simon Whale kicks into play, and I am the alpha male able to boss it. But with you guys, I don't think I'm going to be quite as easy to boss the airwaves, as they say. Not least because I think I'm right in saying we have had a record number of registrations for this one here, pre-registrations as well, to stay in contact. So they might not be all watching them here today. We will send that out to anyone who's obviously done it. But I think that says that you ladies know a little bit about getting the right topics. And if you can't be excited about how to add an extra 100 landlords to your books in 2022, I'd suggest you're not really worthwhile being in the industry, really, are you?
So we're honoured, Sally. No pressure then, no?
Thank you, everybody, for showing up. Thank you. I'm so excited you're here to come and watch us and talk to us. And 100 landlords in 2022, that has got to be the mission, Simon. That has got to be the goal. There are more landlords out there than there's ever been, but it doesn't feel like it. We need to change a few things to get them on our books. I'm so excited about this year. It's going to be amazing.
Beautiful. That's exactly what I was looking for. A bit of, obviously, there's a little bit of nervousness out there in the wider world for obvious reasons, but that's the punchy outlook I like. Obviously, glass half full, except when it's at the bar that we're looking for. So let's just though as well, because of course we're going to spend a few minutes just talking about that particular topic there as well. But just give people just an overview of how you're able to and how you're helping out agents on a daily basis out there for those people that have been hiding under a rock and don't know about Agent Rainmaker.
Okay, well, we're a very quiet brand, Agent Rainmaker.
Just much like Kerfuffle, yeah.
Very quiet. No, we're the loud ones. So our promise is that we help you grow your... what we recognise, Simon, it cut a long story short, is we recognise that there's loads of people in the industry focusing on how to do valuations and how to do the legals and how to get better at compliance and that sort of stuff. But there was nobody really focused on the business element of running a letting agency, as in how to grow a letting agency, how to build profit into a letting agency, and more importantly, we found out that 95% of letting agents weren't actually having any active marketing strategy at all. So how to market a letting agency. And so our three things is that it's growing revenue, it's growing profit, and it's from marketing and generating leads. That's basically what we do. And we do that via a series of events, coaching, webinars, downloads, guides, online platforms, you name it, whichever way you like to learn. We have products that meet all of that. But we like to have fun, Simon, like you. We like to be loud. We like to give loads of swag. We like to jump up and down, and people think we're a cult. But that's okay. We don't mind.
And I think
we just love to help people.
Be very careful about linking yourself to the Kerfuffle brand. That'll take down people in years to come. By the way, anyone wants to nail an elevator pitch, that's just how you do it. That's very impressive there. Let's kick off with that basic one, because I think one of the things we always ask our guests on these shows if there are statistics or standout things that you can bring to life that might amaze people. And I think that point you just mentioned there, that in your estimation, it's over 90% of agents aren't doing proper marketing at the moment. Can we just talk about that element there? Because I do find that quite interesting. Even, and I think many people might be quite staggered by that. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been in this game 30 years, Simon. Just a lot like you, we've been around a long time, and I can remember the old days when we used to just do a full page in the newspaper with the grid type ads with all the properties, and that was what we used to do for marketing. I personally, as a branch, used to spend around 70,000 a year marketing and advertising, and that used to generate around 20 landlords a month, roughly. Then around 2009, 2010, the sort of portals really took over. The newspapers, we started to disappear out of the newspapers. And from that moment, what happened was people stopped marketing. I don't know why, but they just stopped marketing. They still did things like leaflets. A few still do door knocking. Some will send letters to empty properties of properties that appear on Rightmove, which of course are usually fully managed landlords that are on with another agent. So they still do a few things like that, but they're not doing any real advertising spend. They're not marketing. Don't have a system. They don't have a process. And so for the last 6 years, I've been asking everybody that comes into one of my rooms, every letting agent that I meet, do you have an active marketing strategy? And our results are 95% saying no. They don't have a database. They don't have a marketing strategy. They don't do any active marketing other than just a little bit of generic stuff in the office, leaflets and things. There's no real marketing plan there. Since the newspapers disappeared, it seemed like advertising disappeared. In case it's really strange, isn't it, how that's happened in such a short space of time?
It is. The problem for me with any of that sort of we call sort of old school marketing in agency was when there was no way of following up. There was no way for a salesperson in a branch to act on that. And that's obviously my bag is the sales follow up. So yes, even though when we did spend money on advertising marketing, people would ring in and then you'd have their details. But if you do a leaflet drop of 20, 30,000 leaflets, what is that salesperson then going to do in their office? They're going to go and follow up and knock on the door and say, did you receive the leaflet? How was that? So that it doesn't give anyone in the office any opportunity to nurture and to push for business. And so what's happened they've stopped doing any marketing. So the phone calls aren't coming in anymore because that's not what people are doing. People are on their phones and they're on the computer. Yeah. So then we stopped selling. We stopped selling our services. So there was no one doing call outs in the office. There was no one generating any business. And so lettings started to settle into that lovely customer service industry, which we see it as so much as today. And we know what that happens is if you're not growing, you start to go backwards. And that's kind of what's happened.
And this is what you hear from listeners so often, Simon, is there's no one to call. There's no one to call. I've rang everybody. I've rang all the vals. I've rang all the old vals. I've rang all the let onlys. I've rang everybody on the database. There's no one to ring. And the simple reason for that, Simon, is if you're not creating, you've got two types. You've got birds in the hand and bird in the bush. You've got leads on your database and you've got external leads, new fresh leads. If you're not doing something to continuously generate new leads all of the time, then eventually your listers, your salespeople are just going to run out of people to call. And then, of course, that's where you end up getting really frustrated because they're not generating leads, they're not getting new business. So we need to support them in generating, first of all, new fresh leads coming in. I say you should be, as a letting agent, generating, you guys should write this down if you're watching, between 300 and 500 new landlord leads a month is the target. That is what you should be adding to your, and I'm going to use a word here that's foreign to most letting agents, prospecting database, which most letting agents don't have. Did I say it? I'm sorry.
What's that, Sally? I've got a CRM. What does that
it's not the same thing. All right, so let's just get it out of the bag here. Your letting software thing that you put all your landlords and your tenants on and you do your rents is not your database, okay? Your database is a separate thing where your prospects go on, the people that aren't landlords yet. They've just downloaded a thing or they've opted into one of your webinars or seminars or a guide or you spoke to them at a networking event or whatever. It's a database of prospects. That's the thing that 95% of letting agents don't have. Now, to give you an example, we're adding over 600 new landlords onto our database every single month. Now, of course, some drop off and they opt out and they disappear. That happens. There's a churn going on. But what it means is there's somewhere between 300 to 600 people that my listers can call every single month. That means you never, ever run out of people to call. And that's the thing that's missing in letting agency, Simon. They're not doing that. And it's such a shame.
It sounds just, when you say it like that, it sounds like that's a lot. That's a big number. But as you said yourself, you're doing this already. You're hand-holding other agents that you're doing this with. So this isn't a technical sort of brief, is it? You are living and practicing this on a week and monthly basis.
It is, and you also need to, sorry, Kate, you also need to identify what sort of leads you want, because a lot of people say, oh, but they're just numbers. They're not. And if you can be very specific with your marketing, you can choose what sort of leads you want. So, for example, we will strategically change our marketing each month. Hi, Christian. We'll change our marketing each month to suit what we want. So, for example, if we're doing, if we've got some great properties on the books that would be great for landlord investors, we'll do a bit of campaigning around getting new investor landlords on the books, that we can say, hey, we've got some great properties, come on, we're running a buy-to-let workshop on this, do you want to come and see, talk about this, etc., etc., etc. Whereas if we're looking for fully managed stock, then we'd do more around that sort of marketing. One of our favourite ones is aiming at let-only landlords, because we love converting let-only landlords to fully managed, and we're very good at it. We can do about 15 of those a month. And the beauty about those, Simon, is they're occupied. You don't have to let them. They just go straight on your books as fully managed properties. So it's about changing your marketing and tweaking your marketing and aiming at perhaps areas you possibly wouldn't have done in the past, if that makes sense.
One of the other things, Simon, is you say about 500 to 600 new leads coming in the month, that you know, that sounds like a lot, and an agent, you know, is like, oh, we've seen an evolution of the kind of roles that we have in the branch now. Because if you had a branch with, you know, with your lister and your negotiator and your admin, and then suddenly there was 500 to 600 leads to come in every month to call, what we've done is we've actually evolved that now, and we've started to see, I mean, in our branches and obviously in our members' branches and people we're working with, a role creating as a business development manager, because these created a whole role of a person who's now looking at generating new business. So they're contacting the leads, they're staying on top of them. As Sally said, there's different leads for different people that you want to talk to for different parts of the business, and it's actually created a full-time role in a branch. Now, imagine what that would be creating in an agency. I mean, if that business development manager is booking in 10 to 15 valuations a week, imagine what the impact on your business that would have. Because at the moment, traditional agency doesn't have anyone focusing on new business in lettings. We sort of we serve what comes in, don't we, and we take what we get. Whereas if we focus on it with these leads and then a new role, it's some of the results have been mind-blowing.
And there can be no more important role in the business if you think about what they're absolutely doing. I mean, I've probably been a little bit sort of biased because having dealt with so many of those businesses that have client services department that are lucky enough to be able to specialize in those roles. And that's what we're talking about, isn't it? Once you have dedication and specialization, you do get those results back because you've got ownership, haven't you, there? But there's no reason at all why smaller businesses, as you've said, can't still have that designated as a position, is there?
There's no point in having the best bagels in town if no one knows that you sell bagels. You've got to get yourself out there. I mean, there's a saying in business.
Thank you for bringing it back to food there, Sally. Which
of course, my favourite topic. So I think it's they say it's a saying in business, and it's very, very true. And I love this saying that every single business that you see is a marketing company that does X. We are all marketing companies. You have to be a marketing company to get clients and to grow your business. You have to be a marketing company. And it's such a shame that so many letting agents have just closed their eyes to marketing since the newspaper's finished. And we're on a mission to open them up. Kate used a lovely example there of how the roles have changed. But I just want to tell you a little story about a lovely lady that we deal with, Sharon Penaluna. She's a lovely lady up in Manchester. And she says, oh, I want one of those. She's Irish. She said, I want one of those marketing funnels. She said, I'd like one of those. So we helped to set up one of these marketing funnels.
She'll hate you now, you know this.
She will hate me. I'm legendary, very bad at accents.
So I wanted to clarify that was an Irish accent.
It was an Irish accent, yes. I hasten to add, I am half Irish, but I can't speak that language. Anyway, we switched this funnel on for her. And you'd laugh, Simon, because a week later, she goes, can you turn it off? Can you turn it off? She had like 70 leads in a week. She goes, I don't know what to do with them now. It creates another problem, because then you've got to turn your business then into a lead conversion sales machine. And
there's no point getting those leads and having them bounce off, is there? Which again, so many businesses do suffer from. And I hate there's always that very tired phrase, isn't there? A lot of the negs will use, oh, they're just tire kickers and everything else. Well, there's nothing more guaranteed to turn them into a tire kicker if you treat them like a tire kicker, is there? Is the first
There's so many things that annoy me about that, Simon. Don't even get me started, because it's one of the things that frustrates me. People spend so much money learning and creating these lead generation systems systems and marketing and advertising and all that, and it's fantastic. And then to get 300, 400 leads in a month, and the business owners, and it gets passed down the chain of command to these people, and they get rung once and then archived on the system forever, and no one answered the phone. And I just cannot bear it, because there's so many stats and things that I train on with this that just makes, 78% of business has to be contacted 5 or more times before they become a customer. And you're paying all this money and investing in your business to then, as you say, waste the leads or listen to perhaps the people on the phone who need training, and they need to know what to do next, because it's a whole different kettle of fish now with the online digital leads and the way that customers are now expecting to be communicated with. It's very, very different. So this really is a whole process, isn't it, Sal? It's not just about the front end and advertising and marketing and lead generation. It's also about converting at the back end, because 500 leads just sat there being rung once, and as you say, being treated like a tire kicker, it isn't going to do anything either.
But you have to get the leads first, because you can't get the salesperson to have them just sitting there. You've got to get the leads first. Get the leads, build the database, and then build the sales conversion machine. And that's why so many of our members are getting BDMs now. I'm
going to drill into some of this in a bit more detail in a second there, but I think on that one, we're all, people when they're coming at it from a sales angle, you obviously want everything today, now, instantly. Realistically, getting these funnels and this kind of this marketing machine set up, what's up? If people haven't been lucky enough to have been doing this already, how long is a realistic period of time to start bearing gifts? I suppose. What should people set as a timeline?
Right, the beauty about the beauty about the sort of lead automation systems that we build, we call them funnels. So I call them lead automation systems.
I'm a funnel fanatic. You don't have to preach to the converted ear.
I know, but so many people don't know what a funnel is. And is that what you do jam with? No, it's not. Okay, so it's a lead automation system. So the beauty about the ones that we do is we've been using them for years. We tried and test them. We developed them. We test them amongst numerous agents before we launch them out. So the answer is they can work very, very quickly if you promote them. And you know this, Simon, any funnel is no use if you just stick it on the internet and just go, it hasn't worked. If you just stick it on your website and go, oh, something will happen, nothing will happen. So it's like anything. Once you've got a lead automation system, you have to do something to get it out there. You've got 2 options here, paid traffic and free traffic. You've got 2 options. It's up to you, whatever you do. Now, of course, once you've been going a bit further and you've got more reach, it will get easier. So normally what most people do when they first start off with a lead automation funnel is they'll pay someone to run some ads. So you get somebody to run some ads, and there's loads of people, I'm sure Simon knows loads of people that can run ads for you, and you drive some traffic to it. And if you spent 40, 50 pounds a week, you would get a decent amount of traffic just to get it going whilst you learn to convert the leads and the algorithms start to learn what sort of people are going to click on your funnel and all that sort of stuff. I don't want to get techie here, Simon, because we'll scare them to death, but just pay someone to run some ads, a couple of £100, pay someone to run your ads. The other way you can do it is organic traffic. Now, Simon loves organic traffic and is a legend at it. And me and Kate love organic traffic. And this is organic traffic, for example. You get out there and you do webinars, or you do Facebook Lives, or, you write for magazines, or you just put content out there. So that's organic type traffic. So you've got 2 ways of doing it. The fast game is paid ads. The long game is organic traffic. The best game is to do both. And if you can learn the right keywords, the things that make people click, by doing organic, you can actually reduce your spend on paid ads. So I always say, if you can and you can afford the time, you're not desperate to get it out this week, I would do a month or so of organic traffic, learn the headlines that make people click, the things that they want, get it right, then use those headlines, that terminology and the images, etc., on your paid ads, and you'll get a much better return.
So you get the best bang for your buck, basically.
Yes, because you've made the mistakes on the free stuff, and you just thought, well, that didn't work, no one liked that. But then you do something else, it gets 50 likes. That's the thing that you want to run the paid ad on, because that's going to get more traffic. So just be a little bit smart about it. And the way I see it here is, you are like the editor of your own magazine. The editor of a magazine doesn't think, oh, I'll just throw all this stuff out and go, oh, that didn't work. You have to be like a creator. So what is it my audience wants to see? What do my avatar want to see? What do I need to put out there? Put a little plan together. Now, you don't have to do it, but you have to be the conductor of your own orchestra. And that's what we say. Build the plan, put it in place. Don't be the person that learns the ads. Don't learn all about webinars. Don't learn all about database management. Pay some really good people to do that for you. You can get them on, all these online Fivers and different places like that for not a lot of money. Get people to manage this stuff for you, or buy a bit of software that does it for you. There's quite a few, and I know Kate knows a few, Simon knows a few that can do this for you as well. Yeah. But be the conductor of your orchestra. So build a plan and then find out who it is that's going to do it for you.
The great thing about the organic reach is that it takes us back to, because a lot of people and a lot of agencies, until obviously the dreaded C hit, 2 years ago now, it was all about, we didn't want to replace that great back to old school agency, people to people conversations with prop tech, and people were very, very sort of, no, that's not, we've been going 30 years. No, we know that we've been going 30 years and we success because we have those conversations and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, I think there's a huge amount of respect for that communication within agency for sure. But obviously we live in a slightly different world now. But the great thing about organic reach and organic traffic and having those free sort of out there, creating those environments and communities and relationships Sally's talking about, is it's you doing that. You're just doing it through a digital form. So you're still looking people in the eye down a camera, on a Zoom call, on a video, on a live, and you're having that communication, because I strongly believe in that people buy from people, and that you get that through yourself coming across. So if you can create that environment online in a Facebook group or on a webinar like we're doing here, you all feel like you know us and you know what we're about. You can connect with people in that old school way, but in the way that they are actually being reached, which is through digital platforms now, because everyone's inside, isolating or whatever they may be. So if you can think about it, of having that old school communication, that's really what organic reach and traffic is. So, think about putting that conversation in the office across digitally and create that environment online. It's exactly what we've been doing for years, and so many of them are skilled and so professional at doing that. It's just a slightly different medium that we're connecting with, that's all.
Perfect.
Well, can I just add something here just about some stats in the industry, because I think it's really quite interesting, and people say, oh well, I won't bother. I call a lot of Titanic agents. They're the big agents. They've got multiple branches and going for years. It's all about referral and recommendation and stuff like that. What I know from talking to them over the last 6 years, I'm sure you do, Simon, is that their property stock is starting to decline. If they don't do anything different, they're starting to decline. Their profits are starting to go down. The revenues versus expenses, as we all know, is going up. Profits are starting to come down. And this is the situation we're at. At the moment, around 60% of landlords are choosing to let and manage themselves. 60%. 5 years ago, that was only 40%. 10 years ago, that was 25%. So if we choose to do nothing, where is this going? Now, what that means is the 67 or so letting agents in every single town are all chasing the same fully managed landlords that are marketed on Rightmove. I don't know about you, Simon, but this is a warning sign to me saying, Sally, it's time that we change something. And so we've got to start to not just focus on fully managed landlords and all that sort of stuff. We've got to focus on the let-only landlords that think they know it all and don't need us. Because if we all are honest, we all know that they need us. So we've got to change our language and our marketing style. They don't want us, but we've got to convince them that they need us. So we've got to start changing our marketing.
I'm genuinely shocked by that. And obviously, you know me, I'm not shocked by many things. Why do you think it's a time when hopefully there are a growing number of agents that can deliver and do deliver an absolutely first-class service? Why is there that trend of landlords increasingly saying, no, I'm going to do it themselves? Is the British public not delivering on that promise where it says, we don't mind paying a fair fee for a decent service, and they're literally just going for the cheapest common denominator? Or is it more nuanced than that? What is the reason for that trend, do you think?
I think the number one answer is Google. We all believe we can download a tenancy agreement and we can do it all ourselves. But I think the number two answer is ignorance. There are 170 pieces of legislation that landlords need to abide by. I've been running landlord seminars since 1997, so I'm very embedded in the landlord community. And I can tell you now, I've never had a landlord answer more than 7 pieces of legislation. I stuck a bottle of champagne at the front, so I've bribed them. I says, a bottle of champagne for the landlord that can give me the most pieces of legislation. And out of a room of 50 landlords, the most I've ever had in 20 odd years is 7. So there is ignorance. And so they believe that all we do is maintenance and collect the rents. They don't know about the 16 calls we do for chasing arrears. They don't know the nuances of issuing a Section 21. They don't know all the detail that goes into the prescribed information and registering the deposit and returning the deposit and the adjudications at the end. And I could go on into a rant if you wanted me to, but they just don't know all that information. And letting agents, what we do is we sell ourselves on, look at my reviews, how great I am, all of my staff are all qualified, we're the best in the town. They're not interested in that because they don't want you. So what we've got to try and do is make them realize that they need us. So we put out content there. If you look at our Concentric TV YouTube channel with over 1,200 subscribers, it's just all about legislation. How are you going to get fined? How are you going to get banned? How to avoid prosecution as a landlord? How to do this? How to do that? How to do the other? And we utilize that continuously in our marketing. Because we're chasing let-only landlords. We're chasing let-only landlords that believe that they don't need us. And so when they're Googling how to get a tenant out, they get one of our videos and go, oh my God, I didn't realize it was that difficult. Who are these people? I need to speak to them.
It's weird, isn't it? Because with sales, with the sales side of business, you know, it would be a very, very small percentage of the public that would think that they could sell their property themselves, right? Because it's kind of been shrouded in this, well, you know, there's a lot that goes on, it's very important, you just wouldn't, would you? And yet for some reason we've as an industry, as Sally says, it's ignorance, but it's got to be a failure on our part as agents marketing ourselves, because we've not really gone out there and said we're doing this and this, we're saving people from this, look at the case studies, look at the fines, banning orders, that kind of thing that are going on. We haven't done that. We've kind of sat quietly, you know, as lettings people and done an excellent service, but without really any recognition. And we've got to put our hands up and shout and say this is what we're doing, and that's okay. I also think that for some reason in sales, and it's very, very different nowadays, people don't want to tell everyone what it is that they're doing and go through those step by steps like you'll see in these videos that we do and content. Because if we tell everyone what they need to be doing, they'll just go and do it themselves. But we know, psychology of selling, people are inherently lazy and don't actually want to do it themselves. They want the confidence to know that you know what you're doing by telling them exactly what you're going to do and what's needed. They then go, okay, brilliant, have my business. It's a very strange thing, isn't it?
I'll tell you a story actually, Simon, about that, because we've been doing webinars for 23 years, seminars for 23 years, and we've been doing webinars for the last 2 years. And on average in our seminars, we used to get about 50 landlords attend a physical seminar. And now we're getting around 250. I think the most we had was 325 landlords attend a webinar, which is a brilliant data capture tool, by the way. On average, we get about 12 landlord clients from that, or 12 properties from that anyway. And one of the conversations that stands out in my mind, but it was a very common conversation, is that it was a landlord who was a client of one of the other competitors in the town. I shan't mention any names. And he came up to me at the end of the webinar and he said, Sally, he says, my letting agent hasn't told me any of this. I've got 3 HMOs with them and I didn't know that I had to do this, that and the other and blah, blah, blah. I'm really like shocked. He says, why did they not tell me? I says, well, I don't know, Mr. Landlord. I don't know why they don't tell this thing. It's really interesting. He said, I feel I need a different letting agent that understands this better. Would you be able to help me? I says, well, we might be able to. I'll just book you in for a call, Ali. It's an example of the mindset. They're coming because they want to learn, and then their instant reaction is, why has my letting agent not told me this? Because we don't.
No. So we've got a couple of comments here. Thank you for that, ladies. That's great to hear. So Megan, welcome. Great to have you on. I am a new business development manager for an agency in Reading for lettings. It really gives time to focus on this. We're a large, I mean, I don't happen to know that. It's a fantastic agency there. And so, yeah, Megan, I know you're doing a fantastic job for those there. And that's just validating what you guys were saying about that specialization of that role, isn't it? Mr. Watkins himself, Sally Lawson and Kate Gregory really know their stuff. Every letting agent should listen to those guys. Thank you, Chris, for that. And then Megan jumps in again there. Chris Watkins, refreshing to sit on a lettings-focused webinar rather than have it translate from sales to lettings. So there you are. That's why you're getting the big click-throughs again here, ladies. Here. Can we go take it right back to the beginning of why this is needed, though, at the moment? Is why are there no landlords out there at the moment?
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, a little bit of a history lesson for those of you watching. If you go back to the time of Scrooge and the 3 Christmas Ghosts, 1900,
When you were at school, Sal, is that right?
Even no, Kate, I don't remember that far back, and neither does Simon either, just for the record. But if you go back to that time, 90% of all properties in the UK were privately rented. They were owned by factories and farmers and all that sort of stuff. You know, the common man didn't buy property. Mortgages weren't available. It wasn't a thing. Yeah. If you go back through the 1900s and you go to 1977, the Protection from Eviction Act and the creation for statutory and protected tenancy. I'm not going to get technical. Don't worry, Simon. So what happened is the private rented sector went like this, down. It was a massive, massive slant down. By 1987, the private rented sector was at a mere 7%. You guys should be writing this down. It's brilliant fodder for when you're on evaluations. So it goes down to 7% private rented sector. Now, that is the lowest it has ever been. Remember Arthur Scargill's strikes, Margaret Thatcher, all that sort of stuff. That was the year of 1987. Now, what's happened since then, it's been on a massive curve because they brought out the assured short-hold tenancy. Landlords could get possession of their properties again. The 17 grounds for possession, it was 16 originally, now 17, etc. And we've been on a massive increase since 1987. Now, we're now, depending on what report you read, somewhere around 21 and 22% private rented sector. That is the highest it has been since the beginning of the 1900s. Massive, massive increase in private rented sector. And if you look at the big reports on the statisticians, they're saying that the private rented sector will get to be more in line with Europe and be around 50% by 2050. So we're only halfway to where we want to get to. Now, at the same time, everyone's walking around looking at their feet going, there's no landlords out there. It's not possible. There's more privately rented properties out there than ever. Now, I am also doing a lot of speaking. It's perception. Yeah. The reality is, I do a lot of talking for like the property world, the landlord world, and desperately trying to convince them that they need agents, because so many of them are like, oh, I've got 26 properties, I don't use an agent, I do it all myself. And I have some very interesting conversations with them around legislation and compliance. But that's the world that they're living in. So that's part of the problem there. And as I say, the second part of the problem is that, and we covered this in the pay prop seminar thing that we did, was that most letting agents are all chasing the same type of landlord. So a lot of the emerging markets coming out now are housing benefit, asylum seekers, HMOs. These are all massive, over the last 10 years emerged and emerging markets, but still a lot of letting agents will avoid housing benefit, rightly or wrongly. They will avoid HMOs because they're too complicated. They definitely won't deal with asylum seekers. So a lot of the emerging markets that are coming out there are being ignored by letting agents. And so we're all chasing this decreasing market of fully managed landlords, because we already know 60% are choosing to go let only. So now only 40% of the stock is actually fully managed. And, if you take out of that, part of it is non-HMO, part of it is, and you take it down, it's a decreasing market share. We've got to start to look at how we can, to dial it back a second, as letting agents, I believe the reason landlords need us is because we deal with the complicated stuff. So if we turn our back on the complicated stuff, you're giving up what one of the main benefits that you've got. Exactly.
And it's weird because the people who already think it's easy are the people who are already with letting agents, because they're not having to deal with all of these complexities, or they're not open to the issues, or they're not liable for this, that, and the other. And yet those are the people we're speaking to. So we would be much better to change our narrative to talk to the people who haven't got the easy life at the moment, who are managing themselves, and educate them on what they're, could be liable to, the changes. And we need to change the narrative to speak to them, rather than fishing in this very, very overcrowded pool, which has turned into a very small percentage bloodbath at the moment. And yet there's 60% over here swimming around in a beautiful turquoise sea, that we're not talking to.
So as much as anything, if we take away from the first part of this element, it's a mindset and a culture change that needs to happen, isn't it? There, you take yourself out of that comfort zone, and absolutely there is business there, but it's about not fighting for what everyone else is fighting for, essentially. You've got to pick your USB, I think. It's an old 80s USB, and pick your thing. But it does work. And if you're all just saying, I'm a letting agent, I deal with standard lets,
It's say like I'm a HMO specialist, or I'm a housing benefit specialist, or I'm a let only landlord specialist. Just pick your thing, be something other than just a letting agent. Have a speciality, whether it's legislation and compliance. And Megan seems really, really knowledgeable. Who's watching here today? Loads of questions coming through. Brilliant, Megan. So maybe your thing is about legislation and compliance. That's our thing. That's what we do. We run the webinars with seminars. They're like 2-hour legal updates for landlords. They come from all over. We have landlords from all over the country attending our webinars to listen to Dawn for 2 hours, batter them senseless with legislation and compliance and how they're going to get banned and fined. So try and think out what your thing is. Ours is legislation and compliance, and we do housing benefit. We don't do a lot of asylum seekers, but we do a lot of housing benefit, and we do a lot of HMO, but we also do a lot of standard lets. And a lot of people say, I can't do those because it will damage my private clients. It doesn't. Right. Just make sure they understand it's part of your big armory of knowledge and expertise.
And then the glass ceiling isn't in sight, is it? You can keep boosting into those areas. So, as you said, Megan, great, absolutely. She says here, sorry, clearly me being keeping. We love this, Megan. Don't ever apologise for that. Do you think with the Renters Reform Bill pending, with the abolishment of Section 21, we will be back to the assured tenancy days where landlords would rather have empty properties than have tenants they can't get rid of? What's your thoughts on that, ladies?
No, I think it's a brilliant question, actually. The answer to this, I would say, I always like to look what's going on in other countries and other areas of the UK. And of course, we have the benefit here in England of Section 21's already being banned in Scotland in, I believe it was 2018. They call them Section 33s up there. Yep. And they were banned as part of their Rental Change Act. And what happened, and the same thing was, oh my God, landlords are going to run, no one's going to rent anymore, whatever. But what actually happened was, and what I believe will happen here, because all the articles and writing I've seen about the abolishment of Section 21s here says that there will be an extension to the grounds for possession, is always in line with the banning of Section 21. So it's good to understand what happened in Scotland. What happened in Scotland was they abolished the Section 33 and they brought in 3 extra grounds for possession. I'm going from memory here, but number 1, it was that if the landlord wants to move back into the property, he can. If he wants to sell the property, he can. And the third one, I believe, was if he wants to refurbish the property, he can. Don't shoot me if I got that last one wrong. It might be slightly different, but that's roughly what happened. So even though they can't issue Section 33, there's 3 extra grounds of possession, which means, well, okay, that's fine.
It's and I pretty much the same, yeah.
And I'll tell you where this comes from, Simon. It comes from one of the things that I've done many times is talking to lots of councils. The councils and the politicians' belief is that landlords, also letting agents, are issuing these Section 21s like confetti when we want to get people out. They call it, these happy day evictions. It was getting rid of people. But as letting agents, we know that's not the case. Letting agents are only served when there is definitely an issue, or the landlord wants to get back in, wants to sell the property, wants to refurb it, or whatever the case may be. So I actually don't think, Megan, it will actually affect us at all in any way, shape or form, because I believe there will be grounds of possession that will be put in place to recover the main.
It's weird, isn't it? Because the perception for this is that agents make their money from, reletting a property and getting a new tenant in all the time, and get them out, get them in, get the churn. But it actually is much more costly for an agent to do that than it is to keep a good tenant who's in there paying rent and that kind of thing. So the perception is totally wrong on this. And Sally absolutely says, if you watch what's happened in Scotland, there's been no issues, and they've had 3 years worth of sort of demonstration on how it happened. So if you're worried about that at all, just have a look at the Scottish legislation.
Fantastic, thank you. Look, covering back over what we were talking about before, I could imagine some people sat here thinking, talking about how important it is to be the marketing and do the marketing. Do they say, look, we don't have the time to become a full-time marketeer? or is that what you're saying? Is the requirement to have a specialist marketeer in the business, or is it a case that by working with people like you that you they don't have to go down that route? What's your thoughts on that in terms of how important it is to have that as a specific job role within the business?
The challenge with marketing now, as you know, Simon, is it's like this big. I mean, if you tried, I just noticed Megan's put a comment there about TikTok. If you wanted to cover all angles, you've got Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, email marketing, funnel marketing, organic marketing. I mean, you go on forever. I try and do everything and kill myself because that's just me. Because I'm curious, I'm learning all the time, and I'm on.
You're in the 1% of 1%, Sally. I happen to know. So that's me doing my bit of research. I do know you are marketeer of the marketeers, so that's pretty impressive.
I'm a 2 Comma Club winner twice, Simon. That's what you're on about, I think. All right, so I think with marketing, it can be, if you get as me wrapped up in it, it can be a massive subject. But with our letting agency branches that we're coaching and working with, it doesn't have to be. So you've got to pick your thing. Like, for example, we've got a couple up in Leeds that are all over TikTok. They're all over TikTok, and I desperately want to get onto TikTok. I think it's amazing. I love TikTok. I'm spending far too much time on TikTok. I really want to get on TikTok, and I can see it's a real mass emerging market. At the beginning of last year, Clubhouse. I was all over Clubhouse. It was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. Clubhouse is the next big thing, but I just haven't got the time for Clubhouse. You have to give your entire life up to Clubhouse. So that was just too much for me. So I think the key thing is to pick your thing. Now, what we tend to focus on with our agent Rainmaker members is get an automated funnel built and focus on just driving traffic to that and converting the leads. Just focus on that little bit first, because that will fill your database up. For example, I'll give an example, Simon. If you did a webinar every 6 weeks, you'd get 300 landlords from that. Just one webinar every 6 weeks, 300 landlords. You could spend the next 6 weeks working through those 300 landlords, then do another webinar, and just go on a process like this. Just do one thing, because you're quite right. If you try to do everything, you will absolutely go mad. It's just crazy. And once you start to get into the purpose of, like, the webinars, for example, that 2-hour webinar, you could break that down into 13 snippet videos. Those 13 snippet videos are your YouTube videos. You could then pay someone like Cucumber £300 a month to do your content, and they'll convert them all into blogs. Those blogs you can then use as posts. Those posts you can then get somebody on Fiverr to turn those into images and memes. You don't have to do all this stuff yourself, but start off with one thing and do it really, really well.
Well, you saw that comment from Megan there, didn't you? As you said, I tried a live on my TikTok last night to see what take I had. 274 people in 14 minutes asking questions. Totally blew my mind. You know, it's difficult, isn't it? Because we are assaulted by just so many different areas there. But if you can find a niche, and I'm sure everyone agrees here, is the minute that you find something, isn't it, you just double down on the stuff that works. And that's, I
think, as well, if you find something, and it doesn't mean that that has to be the thing you do forever. So you could say, I'm going to start with Facebook, and I'm going to create the community, and I'm going to start doing, my ads for my downloads or whatever it is. Do that for so long that it starts to become a habit, that it starts to become part of your system and your process in your business, that it just happens. Then you can take up something else. I think what happens is agents feel so sort of under pressure that they've got to be on Instagram, they've got to be on TikTok, they've got to be on Facebook, they've got to be hitting emails, they've got to have a website, that everyone does a bit of everything, not very, very well. And the best way to do is to create that habit. So Facebook, and then we do that and we move on from that, and then take up the next thing and take up the next thing. Because as you learn something and you're learning a new system, you put in those process sheets, those step-by-steps. And then once you do that, you can pass it to someone else, because it's very, very important that the business owner doesn't feel like they have to do everything here, because it's impossible. So many agents that we work with, the business owner is just, spread so thin. But what they need to do is understand it, be behind the narrative, understand, do it one by one, get those process sheets in place, get that step by step that's so well that you can then pass it on to someone else. And that is so important.
Can I be devil's advocate here, though? So, yes, that is the perception, and they do have too much on their shoulders. But there is a real problem with many UK agency owners where they keep taking it on board themselves, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
And that fear of letting go some of that responsibility is one of the most dangerous elements, isn't it, of cutting that umbilical cord and being truly able to scale. Because with 70 or 80% of the industry being just 1 or 2 office agents in there, it's not hard to see how that brick wall could come quite quickly, can't it? In terms of, we all see these periods where you get to a certain amount of managed properties and everything else, and it takes you an age to grow beyond that. And there are certain key stages where obviously that happens in a business, isn't it?
That is the number one problem for letting agents in the UK. They won't let go. And the beauty we have now, and I think letting agency is starting to wake up to it, is that we now don't have to employ a person full time. So, for example, all of our tenancy managers, for example, have VAs. So the lower level admin tasks can be done by VAs for £2 or £3 an hour.
These VAs, these are like the international based ones, are they? Who can help you out?
Ours are in the Philippines, but you could use India or South Africa or whatever. You know, you can get people to do that. You can get your social media done by somebody on Fiverr for, say, £100 a month, and you'll just say repurpose this, and they'll just post all the stuff out. You can also use scheduling software like Hootsuite and things like that as well. But the key absolutely is getting stuff off your desk and being smart. So what we always say to people is write down everything that you do in a couple of weeks, and then you pick the easiest, systematical 80% of it. So pick the 80% of things that are the easiest, and then find somebody at the lowest level that you can get to do that's right. Okay, so some stuff has to go to a higher level person, some stuff can go to a lower level person, and basically get that set out to the right avenues. By us using VAs, for example, for our tenancy managers, they can manage over 200 properties each, and that's a phenomenal number. But that's because we use all the software that you sell to us, or you get us to have, Simon. They use all the software like, you know, your good lords and your
Christians, we've got to say the depository. Let's get that out.
The depository. We use all those bits and bobs that make life easier, but then we also use VAs as well. So it just really reduces.
I mean, this is where it's not. We're not coming at this being evangelists, just saying, you know, like some of my clan would do. Technology will do that. We're not coming from the other end where it's all Luddites and letting the people. It's that perfect blend of technology and people and the processes. Sorry, I think that's the final, that's the secret sauce of this, isn't it? You can scale up endlessly with either of the previous two and not get the breakthroughs you want if you don't have the right processes in part. And that, again, not to give you the plug that you certainly don't need, that's where you've seen it done. You've made the mistakes. You've seen people make the mistakes, and you can help people on that path.
You can. And what I personally, I'll tell you a little interesting story again. I love stories. At Age of Rainmaker Live, which is our conference we did at the end of September last year, according to the Plimsoll report, the average salary for a tenancy manager in the UK is £30,000. And I thought, So I said on stage at Age of Rainmaker Live, I says the average salary for a tenancy manager in the UK is £30,000. Would you agree? Not one single hand went up. Now, I know tenancy managers are phenomenal creatures. They do an amazing job. Their knowledge has to be like, you know. So my goal is that by using software, by using tech, by using VAs, my tenancy managers can know the ins and outs of the housing benefit structure, dealing with asylum seekers, all about the local licensing rules, Article 4, HMO regulations, evictions. They're like high value members of staff, because the daily stuff and the answering the phone is done by a piece of tech.
But that leads back to what you were saying before. But then you can then go into these new areas of the business to hit those landlords that definitely aren't out there before with a specialist skill set.
Yeah, because you can pay them more. So all of this pandemic last 3 years, we haven't lost a single member of staff. They've stayed with us. We pay more than anybody. They've had 3 pay rises in the last 2 years, because what we've said to them is the more properties you can manage by you, because there's always this like, I don't like using new tech and I don't trust the VAs. I don't let go of stuff. I said, all right, well, you let go of the stuff and you train the VAs and you start using this tech, I'll pay you more. All of a sudden, they're taking on more properties, they're doing more, they're training. And so I'm now paying them, some of them 50% more than they've been paid 3 years ago, because they're managing a ton more properties, but because they've embraced the VAs.
They're more dollar productive, and they earn the right job.
It also empowers them, doesn't it? Because you're talking about the business owner not having to feel that they're having to drive everything or be involved in everything, and that is so difficult. That if you are giving this power to the staff to learn, to have the time to learn these niches or their specialty or stuff, these natural roads emerge, don't they, to becoming the housing benefit specialist or HMOs or whatever it is, because there's someone in there taking up that interest and guiding it, and you start to empower that level of the workforce below you, which again, Simon, as you say, is the only way you can scale, because you can't do it on your own.
And that's how we've got agents that are now hitting 40, 50 and 60% profit.
So can I just jump one of the other stats? Sorry, I can't believe it's taken me this long to get to this. Is it true that you've really helped agents add £30 million in additional revenue?
Yeah.
I think it's more than that now, as we haven't done the latest stats.
That shows why I've still got loads to learn from Christopher Watkins, because he would have led with that to make people go.
Headline, damn it! So basically, what we do is. So basically how it works, we've been doing this since 2016, January 2016, and we coach people via 1 days, 4-day boot camps and different events. So we basically run loads of events and we coach loads of different stuff. And what we do is we say, here's how to monetize that, here's how to escalate that, here's how to add additional services, here's how to reduce costs on that, etc., etc. And we ask them to track how much additional revenue it means to their business from what we've taught them. From all the reports that we've had back from people saying, I've added 100,000, I've added 250,000, I've added 500,000, I've added 1 million, we've had one lady add 2 million. All these extra reports we've had of people that have added revenue, we keep a sheet of all of that. And somewhere in the middle of last year,
I bet you do.
Yeah, we do.
Award entries and all that.
Award entries,
That's 30 million neck on the line, isn't it? Because if it wasn't, it's going, well, actually, I haven't got anything from you. That's a difficult conversation to have. But the fact you're able to do that and track it, really, really impressive.
And every year when we do the awards, obviously that grows, and as we get more feedback, that grows. I mean, we had
your awards are special. I mean, I am an awards aficionado is being nice, but to see the way you get that energy going in the room with your team is pretty good.
Well, Supplier of the Year is a new one this year, Simon. Just saying, Kerfuffle.
We'll talk on that. On one of those points we spoke about again, scalability and the need to get this stuff, entrenched in your business, and you've mentioned a few of the things here. Again, can we just recap on what automated marketing looks like to you? As I said, I know funnels plays a large part of this, but in an agent that you would start working with, what are the stepping stones you get to really get that automated marketing machine kicking and flowing correctly?
Well, what we normally advise is just pick one. So the funnels are based on the client type. So an investor landlord funnel, let only landlord funnel, fully managed landlord funnel, whatever. So you pick your client type, and probably get us to build the funnel for you. It's probably the easiest way of doing it, because it's you don't want to become a techie geek. That's not what you want to do. Just get the funnel built. Basically, that's not the difficult bit. Get the funnel built, and then you need to understand the pains and the language around that with clients. So you can't, for example, the line that most letting agents use is, do you want a free valuation? Well, let's just play with that for a second. You're an investor landlord. You haven't bought a property yet. Do you want a free valuation work? No, because they don't own the property yet. So you've got to learn the different languages, where Kate comes in, the different languages around what is the investor landlord looking for? Good return, not to make a mistake, to invest in the right property, long-term cash flow, whatever the case may be. So you've got to learn the different languages. Then you start putting out some organic posts around that. What's the best return in Wolverhampton? How to buy the top property in Wolverhampton? Why West is best in Wolverhampton? All those different things. You see what works well. Then you start to create more content around that, and that's when you start running some paid ads. You run some paid ads to that funnel to get investor landlords to come through. You have to have an offer, Simon. You can't just drive people to a funnel and go, hello.
Call the office between 9 and 5.
Call the office between 9 and 5. Here's our phone number.
11 o'clock at night. Yeah, brilliant.
That's 1985 material. All right, so you need to have an offer. So you could have download our guide. You could have book into our buy-to-let advisory workshop, schedule a call with one of our experts or something like that. You have to have an offer to take them through into actually booking a call with yourself. So that's the process, really. So first of all, divide the avatar, get the funnel, drive the traffic, and plan on the conversion. But of course, it's never as simple as you think, because you've got to learn how to convert, and you've got to learn how to drive the traffic. But once you've got it right, it's pretty phenomenal. And in our experience, normally it's a couple of weeks to get it up and running, and then you start having to build the machine of get someone to do the ads and get someone to do the conversions. It's like anything, we've got to put the process in place.
I love this question.
If you get 4 of those in an agency, one for investor landlords, one for let only, one for fully managed, and one for general. If you can get 4 funnels fully active all the time, that's where you get to the 500-600 a month.
I love this question, because we have this all the time. People, lead generation, automated lead generation system. Oh, we'll have one of those, that kind of thing, where so many agents already have one. It's just the use of it. And as Sally said, the process is either side. They're just not doing it. So evaluation tool. A lot of people have a valuation tool for both sales and lettings that they're using. And where do they mostly put them? Well, it's on our website. So you expecting me as a landlord to find your website, go on there, and then decide that that's where I'm going to choose choose to get an up-to-date value of my rental property. It just doesn't work. So the automated system is not just that piece of tech in the middle, because we've all got one of those. Most people have this funnel. It's the whole system behind it, because there's no point in having it if you're not creating the right message, creating the right language, creating the right offer, putting in the right places, talking to the right people. Then you've got the lead capture mechanism. And then at the other end of it, you've got the leads coming out the other end. We've got to convert them in the right way. So it's the whole process. And as you said, Simon, it's that great sort of melding together of tech and people, creating what is just an awesome system, producing these 500-600 leads a month and getting you those 100 landlords on your books in the next year. So it's that great sort of, melding together.
Fusion. And how do agents build a database? I mean, ultimately that's what, if you can get to that perfect stage, can't you, where you've already got a trapped audience per se and everything else there. What else can they do to help build that database that is essentially their gold mine, isn't it, of future business?
There's loads of ways, Simon. There's literally hundreds of ways. I mean, for example, your evaluation tool, get it putting the data straight onto your database. That's rule number one. And then run some ads to drive people to your evaluation tool. Get your funnels set up. So investor landlords, get those tagged as investor landlords. So you're having an investor landlord conversation with those. Do your let-only funnel, which normally like a compliance health check or something. So let-only landlords are always worried about compliance. So get sort of thing, drop them onto your database so they start building up there. You may have something like, how to 11 steps to sell your home fast. If you're looking for vendors as well, you could do that and get those tagged as vendors. So all different types, just different funnels leading to different things. If you do a webinar, if it make sure it's focused on one avatar type again. So if it's legislation, it's generally going to be let-only landlords with a few fully managed mixed in there. So run your webinar again, that's going to fill people in. We tend to do a webinar every 12 weeks as a minimum, as an absolute minimum. Sometimes if it's really good and busy, and there's like in lockdown, we were doing them every 2 months because people were bored. But at the moment it's about every 12 weeks, and we'd get 300 plus on that on average.
If you create something that's of use and that's serving a community, we're already sitting on top of, affiliates, people who we work with in our branches or in our industry that have the same kind of customer base as us. So we've got contractors, we've got mortgage advisors, we've got people do insurance, we've got people that we work with now, solicitors, for example. If you create something that's serving, that's good content, that's useful, then say, could we send this out to your database? You're not promoting anything, you're serving. So the key to creating this prospecting database is lead capture. So you've got to have a call to action on anything you do. And the call to action has got to be something of value that they want to download. And in order to get it, they've got to give you their details. And then we're creating this wonderful list of people who aren't customers yet, but are in the right area that that you'll be able to speak to, call, email, whatever it may be over time, and get those 5 minimum touch points to help create them into business at some point.
Okay. And if you want to get more techie, I was just going to say you can actually turn your website into a funnel hub. I'm sure you've heard about funnel hubs, Simon. Yeah. So you turn your website into a funnel hub. So every single page of your website should lead to download data capture. Every single page should be loads and loads of different ways people download, data capture, log in, all that sort of stuff. So you can turn your website into it. And also things like your social media sites, you can put Linktree links on top of your Instagram channels and things like that, so people can go in and download stuff. Everything leads to a download, an opt-in, a sign up for a webinar. You can turn your webinars into evergreen webinars and just promote them and keep those evergreen webinars going all the time. So people need continuously capturing. Yeah.
We'll have to copy that in a future one, but that's I think that's a really powerful one. I think one of the biggest traps I've seen with people with the call to actions is they get confused and muddled, and they have multiple call to actions, don't they? That's quite a common issue that you see on there.
Yeah.
And
for me, the call to action of interested to hear more, call the office on it's just about as sort of effective or as trackable or as putting a leaflet through someone's door, because you don't know who's viewed it, you don't know who's interested, and you've captured nothing from it. Yes, brand awareness and all that kind of thing, but we're looking at arming staff in the office with actionable, people to call, a database to build so that we can talk to them in the future. Asking someone to ring the office when they're scrolling through a phone feed at 11:30 at night when they're lying in bed and they're interested you know, you get up the next morning, you take the kids to school, you do whatever. You've forgotten, haven't you? And this is this speed to lead thing that just frustrates me hugely. People are getting, you know, leads through and they're saving up. We'll call them all on a Friday afternoon. Well, you know, a lead needs to be called within 15 minutes. Otherwise it's going to go cold, because how many things do you click on a daily basis or download them? Sally's for ordering things all the time that she sees on ads and go, that wasn't me. You know, we forget. So we've got to remember who the end consumer is and who we're talking to, and action that quickly. It's so important.
It is. So, I mean, I've heard a few people snottily talk about, you know, data. They hear people talk about databases, and it's all vanity stats. You know, 20,000 in here, 30,000. But can we just remind people why they should be focusing on that, on building that database? Because, you know, we all know what the value of data is, and I've heard many of you leading consultants and trainers and people like that talk about, if you have a robust database there, you know, you really can get so much of your future business from mining that effectively, can't you?
You can, and email marketing is changing. So in a very short answer to a long question is that if you look at every single business type in the world now, they are focusing on data capture. You go to a shop to buy something, they don't give you a paper receipt anymore. They ask for your email address, they can email it to you. Yep. All this stuff that you can get for free online, it requires what? An email opt-in so they can get your database. The world is going for data capture, and there's a reason for that, because data is gold, data is money. They do say that in the marketing world, you should be generating from every person on your database at least £1 per month of revenue from every database person you have on your database. We find it's a lot higher than that, but even if you just go on £1, 10,000 people on your database, that's £10,000 per month just from your database alone. And if you really work on the email content and the way that you email following on, you can still get 26 to 30% email open rates, but not if you just bang out loads of promo emails. And you will be getting much lower open rates now than you would have been if you're just doing that. So even that has changed. But if you've got a high value database, you should be looking to generate revenue from it. Think about it, Simon. If you've got a database and you want to put on a seminar, you send one email to 10,000 people, you filled your seminar. Yeah. You want to do a buy-to-let advisory workshop, you send out one email, you've filled your workshop. You've got a hot property, investment property that's giving great returns, you email that to your database, it's gone. When you've got a database, you can do things like that.
As long as it's, dare I say that, Sally, as long as that's segmented and targeted, isn't it? If you're sending it out to people, stuff that they're not interested in, that in the way that contended inboxes are these days, with everyone getting more email than they've ever got before, then they will be very unforgiving.
Which is why it's really important to have different ways of communicating, because if you created this database and only ever emailed them, you'll only ever get to the people who respond to emails or don't have full inboxes, for example. So you've got to make sure that you're talking to people in different ways, because people like to be communicated in different ways. Some people like videos, some people like webinars, some people like a newsletter or an email, some people like text, some people want a call. You've got to change it up, because people hear things and consume things in different ways. So it's very, very important that you're absolutely right, not only speaking to them with the things that they have shown interested in, so that you're talking to their language, but also in a variety of different platforms.
And I was going to ask you if all this is easy, and of course it isn't easy, because otherwise everyone would be doing it. But can I suggest that it probably is easy, or much easier, when they've got somebody like your good selves helping them along with that? And can we spend a little bit of time now just talking about one of your upcoming events, which I was lucky enough you invited me to last year, and was absolutely one of the standout events.
What did you think of our event last year then, Simon? What did you think of Eric?
Genuinely, as you said, I thought the level of interaction you had, you mentioned it before, I did think I was kind of potentially with a cult. the level of support that you got, and Brits aren't very good. I know we've spoken about this previously. You've borrowed a lot of the American style of doing things, really getting people involved. And the Brits have. I myself, when I was sat in a room to start off with, and someone tries to get you being interactive, the British mentality on the whole is to do this. And what I love about it is you've broken through that. You guys lead from the front of it, and when when you've got past that slight embarrassment factor and everything else, is special things genuinely happen, because then you can be truly open, truly vulnerable, and discuss the issues that really matter. So if that was a long-rooted way, I absolutely
Thank you for your kind words. And the reason we get that level of interaction is that I think the best way to describe it is what we do with people, and it's going to sound really airy-fairy, and I'm sorry, but it changes their lives. So, for example, Paul Tobias Gibbons, he'd run his business for 20 years, was having to put the wages on the credit card, not making any money. We worked with him, and in 9 months, he added £240,000 additional revenue. That's changed his life. He's now got 2 months' worth of trading money in the bank. He's given himself a pay rise. He can have holidays without the phone going. He doesn't have to worry about the wages. And so when you have a lot of people like that, and we have hundreds of people like that, they do become a little bit sabbatical. Is that the right word? I don't know if that's the right word, but a bit like this stuff works, guys. This stuff works, guys.
Well, they want to translate that to the other people in the room. Yeah,
evangelical, maybe that's
other people, because they felt that, and they want to get that across to the other agents there, that they want them to feel the way they feel. Yeah. So it does become,
but it looks a bit weird from the outside.
It felt to me very much like whether they were anointed as such, that they felt a great deal of responsibility, almost mentorship, to bring those other people with them, which of course is great to have that kind of,
and so rare, Simon, in the industry. Yeah. I mean, I've known you for 15 odd years now, and at various events and things like that, agents don't like to talk to each other, do they really, unless they're drunk at the bar? No. How's business? Phenomenal, amazing, we're doing fantastic, great, and that you don't create that environment where it's real, where you can talk about what's happening, where we're dealing with issues that everyone else is dealing with too, and showing how people can overcome that, and as Sally says, how lives change through that process.
But we actually encourage our members to stand up on stage and share their story and help other agents to do the same, because you might think I'm the salesman, the traveling salesman that's selling this wonder Coca-Cola type stuff. But you'll believe Paul, who stands there and tells you how it's changed his life, or Tom, or Craig. I mean, Craig had everybody in tears at Errors Marshall last year, because he's now housing the homeless ex-service people. He was in Afghanistan. A horrendous story. But because he's now added $500,000 to his business, he now spends his time building HMOs for ex-service people and getting their lives back in order. So it is.
You can't be accused of the hard sell, though, Sally, because one of the wonderful things you do about that, isn't it free to attend that event, and they pay if they feel they've got value out of it?
Absolutely. So our event is ARX Mastery. It's www.arxmastery.co.uk. If you want to come along, the deal is you can attend for absolutely free. You don't pay us a single penny. And if you love the event, then you would pay $197 after the event. If you don't like it, you just email and say, Sally, it was crap, and we will not charge you a penny.
That's $197 for 3 days, guys, as well. 3 days worth of training. I mean, it's compared to what we do. I mean, we do events I think we did 90-something events last year, didn't we, Sally? I mean, it's compared to what we normally do. It's just... you won't get it any other way, and as Simon says, it's a phenomenal 3 days, but for nothing. You can come for nothing, and if you hate it, you pay nothing. So,
and our promise to you is we will teach you how to add 100 landlords onto your books in 2022. We will teach you exactly the systems that letting agents are using to get to 50% profit margin, and we'll also show you how to add £100,000 in revenue over the 3 days. And if we don't do that, then we won't charge you a penny. You just tell us, and we won't.
You should be turning up for just one of those. For the 3, it's kind of a idea, isn't it? Ladies, I want to say thank you so much for today. I've learned a load, as I always do. Hopefully, the people at Fairfield Property here will say, "Hey, a great webinar. You're providing fantastic info and ideas." So well done, Kate and Sally, for that. And Megan, sorry, I missed the website. Can you just repeat? Would you mind just running through that again, just so she's got the details?
I don't know if we can share the link somewhere. Is that possible? I don't know how to put a link on here.
But it's post it in there. Just read it me out again. I'll see if my crappy key skills.
It's just arxmastery.co.uk. arxmastery.co.uk.
I know that, honestly.
Not difficult.
If I've got that wrong, I've just...
We've got other people putting it in now. Come on, Simon.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Megan, for taking part in that over there. And as we said, look, anyone always go have a look at the landing page, obviously, on kerfuffle.com itself. See more information about these guys. There's a contact us button, or you know where to find them all over social media and obviously on these pages. So, but I'm going to say for today, ladies, thank you very much. Can't wait for 2022 to see what you guys are doing, and I will be monitoring the progress of these people as they go through the year. It sounds absolutely fantastic.
I'm so
Thank you, Simon.
Good stuff. Have a good one. Cheerio.
Bye-bye.